Chateau Cheval Blanc was one of the first great wines that I ever encountered, but I tasted it in a very, very unusual situation. I was basically doing a stock check for Bibendum restaurant in the Michelin building in London, where I've worked for many, many years writing the wine list. And in doing my stock check and checking down the rows and rows of bottles that were stacked in racks, I noticed a little puddle on the floor, bright red puddle. And I wondered whether I'd cut myself on something. But as I looked at this puddle in the dark cellar, a drip fell into it. I thought, oh no, something's leaking. It turned out that the bottle that was leaking was a bottle of Cheval Blanc 1947. This is the legendary bottle of Cheval Blanc of all time. And for some reason, the cork had slipped, had been knocked, and it had gone backwards into the bottle, but the capsule had held the wine in, and it must have happened only several moments before because the puddle was quite small. Of course, what's a young man to do but carefully take the bottle out of the rack, stand it up, and have a go at it. We couldn't sell it to a customer, so myself and the wine waiters had a taste of one of the most famous red wines of all time. It was amazing. I dedicated my first wine book to it, to this bottle, and it has made me a massive fan of Cheval Blanc ever since. Cheval Blanc is a Premier Grand Cru Classé A. There are only 4 A's in Saint-Emilion, and it sits on the border of Saint-Emilion and Pomerol. It's a structured, quite rich, intense wine in its youth. And it has a slightly peculiar characteristic. It uses a lot of Cabernet Franc in the blend with the Merlot. Most of the Chateau in Saint-Emilion are 90% Merlot or 80% Merlot at least. Cheval Blanc is moitié-moitié, 50-50, around about there. And the Cabernet Franc percentage increases or decreases depending on the vintage, on the calibre of the vintage and on the weather. But having this amount of Cabernet in the blend, I think, gives this wine a unique kind of character and gives it a propensity to age. Now, Cheval Blanc is owned by LVMH, the big luxury goods brand, the global brand, and what they've done is pump a load of cash in, as you can imagine, and Cheval Blanc now has one of the most space-age wineries you've ever seen. It literally looks like the Millennium Falcon has landed in the vineyard. And from this site, they now make an incredible second wine as well, called the Petit Cheval, which is about a third of the production each year. Cheval Blanc, and they very much are a father and son kind of setup. Petit Cheval does taste like a little mini version of Cheval Blanc. And certainly something I've noticed over the last few years of going to taste these wines and comment on them is that Petit Cheval is where the smart money is. It's got so much of the build quality of the Grand Vin. Don't be scared of not, being able to afford Cheval Blanc itself. It's a jolly expensive wine. You can relax into a glass of Petit Cheval and get a hell of a lot of characteristics of the great wine. So this is what I would advise you to do if you're ever visiting the region and you're driving from Pomerol to Saint-Emilion. You will pass by Cheval Blanc's gates, and you don't need to look carefully for a signpost because you'll see the massive spaceship-style winery sitting in the vineyard.